All right, well, hello and welcome to the Alpha Software Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software. Before we get started, let's just get our QA, our check out of the way and make sure you can see my screen, my mouse, make sure you can hear me. All good. Oh, thank you. You guys are way ahead of me. I really appreciate it. So I've been away from doing webinars for the last 2 weeks, but I think you'll find that today's worth it because it's worth the wait. I have come across something that I think you're going to find pretty cool, and that has to do again with web hosting. And today we're going to be talking about using Alpha Anywhere with Cloudflare. So Cloudflare, you've probably heard of if you are in the tech business. It's used actually by 20% of the internet traffic actually uses its security services. It is a content delivery network, and one of the things it does is reverse proxies. It also does DNS, DDoS mitigation, and a whole bunch of other stuff, both in cybersecurity and also just to make your life easier from a DevOps point of view. I have been aware of Cloudflare for a while, but never thought about using it with Alpha Anywhere. And actually, if I had, I may have actually gone with this instead of another decision, which I had done before, where I showed you how to put together a reverse proxy using Amazon Web Services. So we still have that. If you want to use Amazon Web Services for reverse proxy, it's really a good way to go. If you go to learn.alphasoftware.com, you will find that there is a free tutorial showing you how to set it all up. But today I'm pretty excited about Cloudflare, and I think you will be too. So let's first of all take a look at the architecture between the two. With a reverse proxy, you had a bunch of clients who you want to have connect to your machine, but your Alpha Anywhere server is running behind a firewall. Could be in your home office network, could be in your network operations center, but it's somewhere it's behind a firewall. You don't want to open up that firewall, and you don't want to expose your IP address to the rest of the world. You might not even have a static IP address at a home office network, not that unusual. So for that reason, in a previous demo, I showed you how to use a reverse proxy server. And for not that much money, maybe 10 bucks a month or so, $7 a month, you can host traffic or host your own web server on your own machine at home safely, having AWS in front of it. So this exact same thing happens with Cloudflare. So if you take a look at this slide, this is the architecture for a reverse proxy. And now here's the one for Cloudflare. It's pretty much exactly the same. The difference is that Cloudflare is actually significantly easier to set up. There are some other advantages as well. So let's go into those. Why are we going to go with Cloudflare? Well, first of all, Cloudflare is very, very fast. I think it's average of like 11 millisecond response time. According to Cloudflare, they are the fastest content delivery network, but of course, that's them saying it. But I think it's, from what I have seen personally on the internet, it does seem like it has a really terrific reputation for that. Second thing is that it is free. Amazon Web Services weren't expensive, but they have a very generous free tier at Cloudflare, which allows, I think, something ridiculous like 10 terabytes of traffic free of charge to flow through their server and onto your network, and both in either direction. So that is a very cool feature. But when you get into it, you'll realize they do have some paid features which are kind of tempting when it comes to looking at monitoring and statistics and things like that for network stuff. We'll get into that in a bit later, but we're going to use the free tier today. The third thing is it's much easier to set up. If you went through or watched the webinar on setting up a reverse proxy, you had to select a machine from the list of machines. You had to choose a Linux machine, install a web server. We chose Nginx. Install a SSL certificate. We went with Let's Encrypt. Then we had to take a pair of keys and move them onto our machine. Then we had to create a batch file on the machine and set it up. That way, it took a little while to put the whole thing together. Today, you're going to find Cloudflare is easier. The fourth thing is they are security experts. So, and something that was kind of interesting today is I just put up a website for the very first time yesterday, and I got something like 120 visitors to alphatestdrive.com from someplace I never heard of in Russia. I'm not sure why they're calling my site, but there they are. It's very interesting to see where the traffic is coming from, and they have like a on-off switch for DDoS attacks. Doesn't actually stop the attack, but it slows down traffic coming into your network. A lot of cool stuff there. I'll get into a little bit of that at the very end, but first, let's just talk about what you need to set it up and how you go about setting it up. So if you want to, oh, by the way, this is just a quick preview. This is one of the dashboards as a screenshot that I took yesterday of it, which I thought was kind of interesting. So anyway, here are the requirements. Like before, you still need to have Alpha Anywhere. You want the Alpha Anywhere application server. You can run a development server, I suppose. And it needs to be, of course, running Windows 10 or above, or the operating systems that we otherwise support. So you probably already have this part covered. For Cloudflare, you need two things. You need a domain name, which you can purchase from Cloudflare if you don't have one kicking around or you don't have a domain name register that you like using. And you need a credit card. So this is still free tier stuff. You're not going to get charged for it, but you do have to put in either credit card, or I think they also accept a PayPal account number. I'm sure they want to make it as easy as possible for you to upgrade to other services. But with this free tier, there is no such thing as overages or anything like that. So it's safe. I put in my credit card. It's fine. All right. So let's get started. The first thing you do when you set up the account is you first choose the kind of account. So you'll scroll down. The paid accounts, of course, are up at the top. The free account is here at the bottom. I selected it. It's interesting. It actually made a real invoice for me that it emailed to me, and it created a plan. Once I was set up here, I was able to go and the first thing actually that prompts you to do is ask what domain name you're interested in protecting. So I registered at the beginning of October a domain name called alphatestdrive.com. Not surprisingly, I'm going to use it with the Alpha Test Drive application. So once I put that in, it then gave me some information about how to switch over my name servers, the ones that I'm using for the domain. In other words, the name servers, as you know, those are the ones that, someone hits like alphatestdrive.com, for example, and then that resolves to an IP address, which is actually the thing that your machine uses. I won't go into that. I'm sure you guys know all about that. But they give you the name of the cloud server, the name of the DNS name servers, which you basically copy. Then you log into your registrar if you're not using them as a registrar. I happen to have it over at GoDaddy. That's just what I've been using. So I pasted in the two name servers into GoDaddy. It said, okay, you sure you know what you're doing? I said, I do, and I click continue. Now it said it can take up to 24 hours. Maybe it can take up to 24 hours, but it really took about 5 minutes or so for this process to get approved. And so once the server change had been made, Cloudflare actually sent me an email, and it let me know that my site is now being protected. So this is good. This is actually one of the key first steps that you need to set things up. So where do we go from here? Well, what I did was I actually went up here to go to, and I did a search, and I typed in tunnel, and I went here, and I went to this part of the website. You can probably tell from the tone of my voice that maybe this isn't the thing I should be doing, but anyway, it was interesting, and it showed me how to set up things. And there's even a dashboard method, a GUI method to set up a tunnel. But I've tried it many different ways. I personally didn't have success with it. Obviously, some people do, but from searching around, I actually found a really, really easy way to do it. So if you do go here, this is not what we're going to be doing today. We're going to actually be doing it a little bit more manually, but still it's going to be really pretty fast. There are only 7 things that you need to do to set up that Cloudflare account. The first thing is to install a piece of client software on your PC called Cloudflared. The next thing is to open a command window as an administrator. And then in that command window, you're actually going to log in to Cloudflared. Then you're going to issue a couple of commands. One is create the tunnel. That's just a simple command that you type in on the line. I'll show you each of these in a second. The next thing you'll do is you'll configure the tunnel, and you're going to be doing that by editing a text file. which will tell Cloudflared where you want the traffic to go when it comes in. And then two other things we're going to do. We're going to update the DNS record in our name server. Remember, we had just switched it over to the Cloudflare name server. And we don't actually do that on Cloudflare itself. This is, again, just a single command line thing that we can do. And then running the tunnel is another command line thing. And then it is working. So let's just take a look at these process steps in detail. The first thing is, if you don't do a lot with DOS, maybe you have forgotten about, okay, no, sorry. Let's start first by installing the Cloudflared. So I'm getting ahead of myself here. So you can get the Cloudflared software from Cloudflare itself, or you can get it on GitHub. And I suspect the link on Cloudflared actually goes to GitHub. This is the link, and I'll be giving you some links here. No, I'm not going to put that. I'll put that in the chat window all at the end. I'm also going to make these slides available if you find that helpful. So this is where you download. When you download, if you're not used to GitHub and multiple versions of stuff, what you're looking for is you're looking for the version, the MSI, the Microsoft installer version for AMD 64. So that's the one that you're going to run and install on your machine. There's no real prompt other than your PC is going to warn you, hey, you found this thing on the internet. Interestingly, they don't actually sign themselves as a known publisher. Instead, they use a different method. I'm not really that familiar with it, but of hashing it to make sure it's safe. But just this screen is normal. It doesn't mean you got a weird copy. The next thing we're going to do is open a command window. And if you haven't worked in DOS for a little while, or at all, because you're mostly doing Windows and other things, it's real simple. Just from the start menu, you're going to go up into the Windows System folder, which I've conveniently cut off here. It's called Windows System. You're going to right-click on Command Prompt, and you're going to choose More, and you're going to say Run as Administrator. It's important that you run this as an administrator, or it will not work. And you'll know you're running as an administrator because it will say right up here in the dialog, or sorry, in the window that appears, Administrator. So right here, it opened it up. It doesn't really matter what default directory it opens up to. Mine happened to open to Windows System 32. Don't know why, but that's all. That was all for that step. So so far, I hope you find this pretty easy. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to log in, which is going to create a PEM file, which is a type of certificate file, so that we can set up a secure tunnel between the Cloudflare service and your server at home. So to do that, that is just a single line. At that command prompt that you opened up, again, doesn't matter what directory you're in, just type in Cloudflared space login. What that actually does is it will open up your default browser, and it will log you in, or it'll bring you to the login page of Cloudflare. From there, you'll log in. If you're already logged in, it sort of skips that step, still opens the browser, and it goes to a page which asks you to authorize the URL that you're using for use with this tunnel. You just click OK on that. So I don't have a screenshot of it, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you do that, just follow the instructions on the screen. Okay, when that step is done, it actually creates a file for you. There's the cert.pem file, our certificate file. And you're going to find that in your user directory by default. It will have also created this directory. So for me, it was c:users/Dave McCormick /.cloudflared. It's probably going to be c::users, whatever your username is, /.cloudflared. So you're going to want to open up Windows Explorer and find this folder and make note of what that path is, because we're going to need that in a moment. So here is the cert.pem file. Okay, cool. That is the end of that step. The next thing we're going to do is create a tunnel. So to do that, again, we're going to go back to the command line, but this time we're going to issue a CD, or change directory command, and we are going to move over into that directory that I just had you make a note of, c::users, whatever your name is, Cloudflared. Okay, cool. Once you are successfully in that directory, the command to issue is Cloudflared tunnel create, and then the name of your tunnel. So Cloudflare tunnel create, and the name of your tunnel. If you want to put a space into your tunnel name, you can, but you'll have to put it in quotes because this is DOS, and we'll think of it as multiple arguments. I happen to use just camel case, which I find works fine. When you run that command, it's going to create a JSON file like you see here. And look at that, the name of that JSON file. It looks like a UUID or something like that. And it is in fact a unique identifier to your tunnel. So you're going to want to make a note of that as well. So I'm going to go to the next page, and we are actually going to configure that tunnel. And this is the hardest step, but it's still not that hard. You're going to open up Notepad. You're going to create a new text document. On the top of it, you're going to type in tunnel, and then you're going to paste in that UUID that you had here. That is from here in JSON. You can right click on that file, click rename, and you can actually copy that name to the clipboard because you're going to use it a couple of times. So you put that one in. The next one is the credentials file, which is the full path to the JSON file here. So here it is. It's the full path and the full name of the file. And then the next thing is a line which says ingress. The next is going to be -hostname : and this is where you're going to put in your domain name. So I chose Alpha Test Drive as mine, so that's the one that's being hosted, so that's the one I put in. The next line is a really important line. This is where you want the traffic to go. I set up my web server to accept traffic on port 443. Interestingly, it's not encrypted traffic, so it's HTTP://. It's kind of weird that I chose 443. That's usually the one for HTTPS. Sorry, bad example, but whatever port you're using, put in that port number there. You can also have Alpha running on a different machine on your local area network by qualifying it right here as well. But chances are you're just going to be doing this here on localhost. This last part, I think, is just a catch-all service HTTP status 404. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but put it in. It's what you need. Okay. So when that is done, there are only two more steps we need to do. One is to route a tunnel. One is to make a change in the domain name server so that it knows that alphatestdrive.com should point to your tunnel. So your domain points to your tunnel. And you do that saying Cloudflare tunneled route DNS. And then this time it's the name of the tunnel, not that GUID thing, but the name you actually gave it, space, and then the name of your DNS. Okay, simple enough. When that is done, if you wanted to, you could go back into Cloudflare and check to see that actually happened. And if you went into its DNS records section of your dashboard in Cloudflare, you'll see that it set it up for you. Or you could just take your chances and assumed it works, because the next step is just simply to run the tunnel and see if it's working. And running the tunnel is one more command line. It is Cloudflared tunnel run. And then this time, again, it's the unique identifier of your tunnel, not its tunnel name, if you want to make it run. So you put that one in there and it will run the tunnel. Now, this has the same caveat that we had with the Amazon Web Service solution, and that is that you're only going to have this connection from the internet to your server as long as this window is open and that command is running. So there are a couple things you can do. One thing I showed was how to put it in a batch file and have that batch file automatically run every time the computer is restarted. I showed how to do that in a previous webinar. That would certainly work here. But Cloudflare actually has an answer for that. You can run this as a service, and they've given you directions on how to do that. I will point you to those directions at the very end. So the very last thing to do, now that it's there, is to go to your URL, which I've done. I went to alphatestdrive.com, and heck, why don't you guys go ahead over to alphatestdrive.com and let me know. See, does it come up? Is it quick? Is it so I got everyone there. Go ahead, type it into your browser. I know some of you are paying, not everyone's paying attention. I appreciate that, but for those of you who are, go ahead, type it in. Let me know if something comes up. Is it slow? Is it quick? It's quick and working. Oh, good, coming from the UK. Fantastic. Anyone else going to give it a shot? I promise there's no virus. Boom, excellent. Oh, there's another one. Great, works good. Okay, wonderful, awesome. So that's that. Not terribly hard to set up. Definitely value priced. Let's go take a quick look at a few links that I wanted to share with you at the very end if you're going to do this yourself. And those are these here. The first one is just the GitHub. It's github.com Cloudflare releases. Let me go ahead and escape out so that I can copy these guys and paste them into the chat window. Let me grab those chats. The second one is an article that I just found online on a site called Make Use Of, which I found really useful when it came to setting up the Cloudflare tunnel. It also showed you how to do it for Raspberry Pi and for Mac and a whole bunch of other things. I learned a lot from this article. I thought it was great, so I'm going to share it with you. And the last thing is the documentation link to running that as a service using Cloudflare. So that's the documentation there to have it run without having to do the batch file trick and set up in Windows Scheduler and all that. Cool, so that's that. Let's just take a quick look though inside. Let's go to, hang on one second. Oh, there's my calendar. Let me open up a browse window here for a second. And we're actually going to go into Cloudflare and take a look. Once I open the right window, hang on a second. All right. Oh, it's right here, of course. All right, so hopefully you guys are seeing this. There's, here I am in my dashboard. So I'm just going to go back here. And there are a list of my domains. That's the top level in the dashboard here in Cloudflare. And then when you select a dashboard, it gives you some metrics, 132 visitors. Some of them are probably just right now, some different requests. And if we scroll down, there was actually a map, which I thought was kind of cool. A few more analytics. Here we go. Unique visitors, bandwidth. And this is it, the web traffic by country I found very interesting. We got a couple requests from Germany and some from Spain and all that. No doubt bots crawling around. No one knows about this just yet. But it's good, and it's all protected now behind Cloudflare. So that is my presentation. Are there any questions here today? If you can, just go ahead and type them into the questions box. But if you think of them later, you can always send them to guides, GUIDES @alphasoftware.com. No, it looks like it's good. Excellent. Well, we're going to post a recording of this along with the a link to the PowerPoint presentation, which got the links and stuff, probably in the next couple of days. Oh, one last thing to leave you with. For those of you who are stuck into the very end, again, our Developer Day is coming up November 20th. We haven't sent the email yet. We are going to send it, I think, later on today. It's also going to be on the events page on our website. So we're really looking forward to that and hope to see everyone there. Okay, until next time, take care and stay well. Bye-bye.